was trying to set my map up and ended up hitting the record button on the camera, and to lean forward to turn it off, well, I would probably lose control of the car. Let's just put it that way. I'm not gonna explain exactly what just happened. Just not good. But I've been meaning to do car vlogs for a while, so take advantage of this, I guess. Seriously, I did not mean to turn the video camera on, but it's recording and it's looking directly at me, and yeah, why not? So I'm going through a tough time. And she asked me not to talk about the details and everything, and just suffice to say, I'm going through a breakup, and my ex didn't want me to talk about it, and it kind of sucks. But I decided, I don't really feel like sitting in my room doing nothing but moping. So I'm on the way to visit my dad, which is a very long drive. I live in Dallas. My dad lives in Austin. So I have a lot of time to kill. And I had trouble getting out of Dallas. And I almost had a panic attack on the road. That's never fun. So, responsibly, as I started to tear up and started to hyperventilate, I pulled my car over and pulled it to a parking spot and took an anti-anxiety med and just sat there for 15 minutes. And after that, I've just been sitting in the car and driving. And honestly, I tried to record myself singing to somebody that I used to know, because that just kind of popped on the radio, and I was like, seriously? Right now? So that's why the video camera was up. Beyond that, I decided it wasn't really a good idea to turn it on, and I didn't, and then I decided to try to get to my map, and I ended up hitting record, and whatever. But here we are, and I've wanted to do car vlogs for a while. I've seen other people do them. I've seen a cop do them. Usually the camera's not facing him, but you know his face and you know who it is. So I'm guessing that it's not so much illegal as long as I'm a responsible driver and I'm not distracted. Now this guy, someone might message me and say he should not be here and I can get in trouble for that. If that's the case, he will not be in any other car vlogs. But as far as I'm concerned, he's behind me. The airbag will hit me in case of an accident, and he is perfectly safe. Could I be wrong? Absolutely. And if you tell me I am, I will move him, and he will not sit behind me ever again in my car. But anyway, what can I talk about? So my name is Tangent online, my pin name, and usually it's just fly off on a tangent like I just did, talking about my ex and talking about the shit that I'm going through. But really, that's all it is, and that's all this is supposed to be, is as I think of things to go off on a tangent about, I talk about them. A little bit about me, I guess. I'm 24. I'm a writer. I do fantasy, science fiction. I like to do science fantasy. That's a term that I made up. I'm sure I'm not the first to use it, but I call it science fantasy. I do a lot of fiction and fantasy elements, but I like to tie it into scientific elements, and I like to do the science of magic and discussion and philosophy. Right now, I am reading the history of Taoism, actually, which I am a Taoist. I'm getting more and more into it now that I'm dealing with a breakup and finding spirituality again. It's just something to do. And I'm reading the history of it. It's somewhere in my car seat. I'm not going to lift it up and show it to you because I'm driving. It's an actually interesting religion. So Taoism itself is a philosophy that turned into a religion years ago. Taoism was founded, or is credited to Lao Tzu or Lao Tzu. It is a philosophy of the way of the universe. The quickest way to sum it up would probably be, so Taoism believes in the Tao, this force that is through all things and exists through everything. Kind of like the Force in Star Wars. It exists in all things. There is just this grand design, this grand thing, this grand energy. But even though the Tao, most people see it as a polytheism, and the Tao as something to be worshipped, it is more of a concept. Unlike God, who people worship God as a being who created the universe. Unlike Vishnu or God or Allah or what have you, the Tao is a lot less. The Tao is a lot less human. It is seen as a benevolent force by Lao Tzu, not by all of the people who believe in it, but by Lao Tzu and in Tao Te Ching, it is seen as benevolent. But it's not material. It doesn't have a human element. It's ethereal. It's incorporeal. It's just this energy, and it might be an energy with a purpose or with a mind or with a, what's the word I'm looking for? Well, there's a word, and I might edit it in, or I might like pop it in there. But it just exists. The Tao is just a thing, and it is this energy that controls the universe. Now, that's not to say that every Taoist believes that, because Taoism started as a philosophy, and what it is mostly going with the flow. Kind of like the phrase, everything happens for a reason. A lot of us believe in fate, or a lot of us just believe that everything happens. Maybe for a reason, maybe not. But the reality is that everybody has a Tao, their own personal way, their own personal philosophy. And we all choose to live within that philosophy, whether we know it or not. So everybody has their own personal Tao. That's something that from Tao Te Ching that rings with me a lot. And it is a lot about going with the flow. A lot of people misinterpret Taoism as inaction, as we are very neutral people who allow evil to exist and don't do anything. That's not really the case, though. There is a lot of action in Taoism. The difference is that we believe in benevolence, and we believe in good and evil, or some of us do. I do. Not every Taoist does. But there's a balance within that. There's this sense of righteousness that people can have that can become itself evil. That's not always the case, but there's also this sense of darkness, that everybody has darkness, but they can still want to be a good person and strive to be a good person. Just because you have sins or done terrible things or do terrible things does not make you the devil. It might make you evil, it might not make you evil, but it doesn't make you pure evil. But the Tao is all about that balance, all about the fact that we are basically somewhere in the middle. The world is somewhere in the middle, and it's constantly flowing and ever-changing. Really, what it comes down to, and what helps me going through my breakup right now, is everything happens, and there's nothing you can do to take back the past. Trust me, I would love to find time travel technology, but at the same time, I've believed for a long time that everything that happens, and eventually it's all going to make sense in the end. That's not something you have to believe, that's something I believe. Eventually, it'll all come to a head, and it'll all happen for a reason. What that reason is, I don't frickin' know, but it's a reason. But here I am, having destroyed a relationship, and I will say that I pushed it to this, having lost a relationship that I thought I was going to have for the rest of my life, and I cannot go and take it back. I can forgive myself, I can accept the faults and the blame that I had in it, but I cannot go and take it back, and I cannot force her to take me back. I cannot change what already happened. It happened. But when I delve further into the Tao, I start to feel a bit more balanced. Like, this is another part of the way of the universe. This is just the way the river is flowing. And I can sit there, and I can fight it, and I can fight it until I die. Or I can accept that it's happened, accept everything that has happened, and try to push forward. Does that mean I'm okay with it? No. I cried like a bitch earlier. Like, I'm still in pain, and I still cry, and I still feel bad. But how's that working for me? That's what my therapist says. How's that working for you? You know, you can sit there and wallow in your misery, and you have every right to, but eventually, what more can you do? You know, sometimes we're going to cry, and sometimes we're going to feel bad, but I have to forgive myself, and I have to move on, and I'm working on it. And it's funny that I say have to, because have to and should statements are actually a logical fallacy. So I'm going to IOP, and I shouldn't talk about the other people in it, but I don't see any problem talking about what I've learned in intensive outpatient therapy. As long as I don't talk about the other people, as long as I don't mention their names or what they're going through, their anonymity remains, and I don't even tell you which one I'm going to or where I am. I'm welcome to say that, I think. And if I get in trouble, I take the video down or I talk to someone, you know, it all works out. But should statements are actually something that can be toxic. We talk a lot in IOP about how should statements, I should have done this, I should have done that. Well, shoulda, coulda, woulda, you didn't. And living in should statements is bad. And also, I should do this, and I should do that. I should not do this, I should not do that. I should go looking for love somewhere else. I should move on. You're forcing things on yourself, all right? We have to heal. And I get that. And have to, again, healing is a process, and healing is a hard process, and it's one that we're going to go through with a lot of difficulty, and we're going to cry, and we're going to feel bad, but it's going to happen. But trying to force ourselves to feel one way or another doesn't help, all right? Should statements, objects of permanency, ideas of permanency, you have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow. And that's not to say hold on to hope. All right, I don't say that and say, well, I could get my way tomorrow and everything could be perfect and hunky-dory. I don't know that. So forcing myself to accept and move on and then something else happen tomorrow, that would be bad. But also forcing myself to expect something to happen tomorrow, no. I choose to, for my own health, live in the mindset that what has happened, and I am moving on. And I'm working on me, and I'm working on being a better person. And I'm going to be single for a while. Woohoo! This is soda, by the way. I swear. I'll probably be single for a while. I'm just turned off of relationships. But I keep going back to that, and I'm trying not to talk about it. It's just in examples of talking about the Tao and talking about IOP. So, you know, you can live in your shoulds and your wants and your coulds, or you can come up with a plan and you can work towards that plan and you can live in it, and whatever happens, and you go with it. Things might not go your way, things might go your way, who knows? But life is life, and everything happens. Wow, I'm just getting a lot off my chest here, and I'm probably going to upload this to YouTube just because, and we'll see where it goes. IOP is fun. So yeah, fantasy writing, the Tao. I've gone off on a lot of tangents here. It's a good thing that my name is Tangent. But going back to the Tao, everything happens, and you have to, you choose to go with the flow of the universe while trying to be a good leader. Lao Tzu talks a lot about leadership. Tao Te Ching is written in the perspective of being a political figure and being a good leader and a good moral person. So in that aspect, he talks a lot about understanding and being able to take charge. So going with the flow doesn't mean just letting things happen to you and letting the universe step all over you. And it's really complicated to get into. And I'm just a novice, all right? So there are Taoists out there. There are people who have studied this for years, who have gone to school. I haven't taken a class yet. I've done philosophy, but I haven't done philosophy of Eastern religion. I'm going to. I haven't. There are people out there that are going to probably correct me or say I'm wrong about certain things. But the way I see it, you go with the flow to a certain extent, and you accept things as they happen. You also learn how to work with the flow of the universe. You learn how to adapt and react. So You know, the river is flowing one way. That doesn't mean you can't metaphorically build a dam. You work on things, and you work on yourself, and you work on moving forward. It's a very interesting philosophy. And a lot of people, I myself might say that I got into Eastern philosophy because I got into anime, but ironically it's the other way around. I am a huge anime nerd, but I got into anime because I was already into Japan and into Japanese philosophy and religions and ideas. And Taoism comes from China, but it did eventually make its way into Japan too. I've always loved the symbol of yin and yang. It's called Taijitu, actually, but yin and yang is how most people will recognize it. Yin being the darker half and yang being the lighter half. I've always loved it. It just seemed like a very interesting symbol to me, and I liked what it represented of balance. I liked the idea that there's a little bit of light and darkness and a little bit of darkness and light. So how I discovered Taoism, however, is I was taking a remedial history class. I sucked at history, guys. I was terrible at it. I hated doing it. I was taking a remedial online history class in my high school because I was far behind. I was in 11th grade. I'd failed history classes twice. I had to catch up a lot. And because of that, it was just an online course, and they made you just push through it. Like, you kept going and failing until you succeeded. So you read all of this, you take the test, you fail the test, he opens the test up again, you take the test again, the teacher does the test. It over and over until you get it right, just throwing yourself at it. Not necessarily the best curriculum, because you can just keep going until you've passed and learned nothing. But for me, I got to Eastern philosophy and Eastern religion, and it was really interesting. So I saw the yin and yang symbol, and I learned that, or I started reading about Confucianism. I can't remember all of it very well now, but it was really interesting. So Confucianism itself was a philosophy. And then later on, Taoism became a philosophy. I would say, and people might argue with me, I would say that Confucianism is a great-grandfather of Taoism, but they aren't the same religion. They are different. Now, Taoism became a philosophy of yin and yang, of balance, of this Taijitu that everybody has dark and light, and everything has dark and light, and the universe is flowing in one direction, the way, the Tao. That was just a philosophical idea, a philosophical theory by this person named Lao Tzu, who may have been multiple people, who became enlightened and had it all written down. That's how every religion starts. Taoism itself eventually got integrated into the other shamanistic religions of ancient China, probably Confucianism. I haven't really read the history past that. I've read the origins. And basically, people picked it up and created a polytheism out of it. So the Chinese will pray to their ancestors, and they will pray to spiritual people. But they do not believe in spirits as gods. So you see not us, sorry. I've just been reading it so long that I think of myself as part of the culture. I'm not. Excuse me. You see the Chinese and the Japanese pray to their ancestors and pray at shrines. And in a Judeo-Christian society like our own, it's very easy to assume that they're worshiping their ancestors. Well, no. They pray to their ancestors the same way we do. We just do it casually. Like with the dead, every once in a while, we'll probably sit there and we'll talk to... I'll sit there and I'll talk to my Aunt Rose, who has been gone for 3 years, and I'll be like, man, I wish you were here, and what would you do? Christians do that. You know, we do that. We think they're in heaven, but we do that. I have a weird relationship with Christianity. I'm agnostic, so sometimes I'll say we, and sometimes I'll talk like I'm a Christian. Sometimes I'll talk like I'm not. It's complicated, and you might learn about me later, but suffice to say, I was raised Christian, and I have nothing wrong with the religion. And I defend it and defend my family. But I am very into Taoism, and I am very agnostic, and I am very open-minded. Anyway, so Chinese and Japanese cultures will pray to their ancestors more openly and more frequently. They will also pray to spiritual beings, possibly people who have lived, possibly spirits. A lot like Native Americans pray to earth spirits. It's a very, I guess, to us, a very pagan culture. The thing is that a lot of spirits that we consider pagan gods weren't really seen as gods, and it gets really complicated. So, yes, Taoism became a polytheism because people started praying to Lao Tzu. Okay, well, I am now back. My mom called. Luckily, turned off the recording. Hopefully saved the recording, we'll see. Yes, I did wait till it was safe to turn the camera back on. What was I talking about? Oh yes, so the Chinese would pray to their ancestors. That didn't mean they worshiped them as gods. I think that might be the same for a lot of pagan religions. It's just that they would pray to the spirits or pay tribute to them in some way. Whereas in Christianity, and I'm a bad Christian, I haven't read the Bible all the way through. Don't tell my dad, who's probably watching this. Hi, Dad. So, in Christianity, I imagine that the part about worshiping false idols conflicts with the idea of paying tribute to ancestors or spirits of any kind. But, yeah, Taoism became known as a polytheism because I would say that most of our study of religion is based on Judeo-Christian understanding of religion, which I understand because we've kind of integrated into a very Christianic society, and we're very slowly coming out of that, but let's not get political. People are going to argue, and if this goes on YouTube, people are already going to argue about it, even if there's 10 years. I'll get into that later. And yes, I will have tangents that will be very controversial, but this is the first vlog that I've done.